Merry meet everyone. My name is Serona Rose, and I am a priestess of the European Celtic tradition of the craft. And I want to talk about a few things because I've been getting some questions. So I just wanted to put it all in the video and just kind of answer those questions for everyone at the same time. Now, while at times I will be emphasizing on Wicca specifically, the path of the wise or witchcraft, the craft. A lot of people do not like to refer, a lot of people do not like to use the word witch anymore because of the negative connotations, but we can call this the path of the wise. We can also see this in the greater sense of it as a spiritual journey, as we are all evolving and we are all growing. We don't necessarily go to a specific religion. Maybe we will go to a spiritual idea or philosophy, that sort of thing. So even though I may be mentioning this, you can use this in broader sense is what I'm saying. You don't have to just stick to the exact thing I'm saying. You can get the idea of where I'm coming from here. So I'm also going to be referencing a book by my high priestess. Oh, you can't see it, geez. And it's called The Tangled Web of Wicca, Through the Eyes of a Traditional Wiccan Witch. Her name is Rain Dove. And she wrote this book a little bit ago, and it's really good. I mean, it talks about, she uses her stories a lot as in telling you what to look out for, what to watch for, that sort of thing. It's not a book of spells or anything like that. It's not any of that. It's talking on a real sense and a realistic one. It is a book that is like she's sitting next to you talking to you about this, and that is how she wanted it. She wanted it to be she wasn't very formal with that. She wanted it to be like she was talking to you as you were sitting right there in front of her. So first off, in the book, of course, she does thanks to everybody. She gives a gratitude for everyone that has supported it. And that is so important too when we go forward, is to learn to pay gratitude to the people that have came before us, to the people that have helped us, throughout our life, whether we are focusing upon a spiritual journey or not. Gratitude helps us appreciate these things that we have, because we know in this world, there's not really a constant, there's always that change. So we appreciate, we take that time and appreciate what we love and what we value. So, and, those things that have been supportive to us, that have helped us get to where, we are on our path. So she also states that, that it's truly been an adventure, and it has. I studied with her. My training was for about 7 years, 6-7 years. So it was a journey. Now, before that, I was on my pagan path consciously for a good 15 years before I decided to join a coven and seek traditional training. And the reason I did this, and it's not because I never had good teachers, it's not because now there are a few people that I did meet that I knew was was a little out there. So but all in all, the people that I did come in that were like teachers or mentors to me, they were very good. It's just I had to find where I fit in at, and this is the Celtic path is where I fit in. That is also my heritage, but we'll talk about that just a little bit. We won't go too far. One of the things that I had to realize that when we are setting out upon our path of the wise, is that there are certain protocols that people go by within the spiritual path. And these are very much respect. When you are walking a spiritual path, one expects you to be conscious. Of course, when you are new to the path, you do not understand this. And this is why I am offering this guidance to you now. One is that one thing about being on this path is that we normally do not, wear it on our sleeve. What we do, we are not like, oh, this is me, look here. This is my credentials, blah, 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 blah. And the reason being is because there is a lot of information that, people would like to keep private about themselves, and they have that right. People have a right to privacy. They have a right to keep, information about themselves out of the public eye. So, and, that's just respectful. So, there is a lot of information that, there's a lot of information I will say that people will share with you, but there's some that they don't. And, you'd be the same. You would be the same way. But now when you start to become someone's student, that is when you find out more. You find out more because you're focusing yourself. You are making a conscious decision in order to be a student, to actually learn from this person. So of course they will then share more information with you. People crave information, and we live in an instant gratification world right now, and everybody wants, there's just so much, they're just so hungry and to get it, and they want it so bad. But we have to understand that that's not how the spiritual world works. In this path, you can't go from A to Z overnight. It's just, and I wouldn't even want to, because in that there is so many changes that one will go through in order to get from here to there. It would be absolutely horrific for someone to experience that, because when you are going through training and you're going through, you're learning, you are having to reprogram, or I should say deprogram and reprogram yourself. From the moment that we are born into this world, we are programmed with certain thoughts, with certain ways, within our families. I mean, this is not something that is done in a mean way. It's just something that is mostly done just as a part of our culture. So you have to understand that if you are going to be on this spirit, if you're wanting to seek a spiritual path, you're going to have to learn to develop patience, especially if you want those that are very knowledgeable to work with you. Excuse me. Each of the steps that we go through, it changes you, it matures you. It is, like working with a sword, as you heat it, and you have to bang it into, they hammer it, right? And then they have to cool it. This is a process too of a human, going through this, through a spiritual journey. You look back at the ancient mystery schools and you can see where they worked those exact same, those exact same ways. And so as we change, and that's what we're supposed to do, we're not going to be the same as we was when we began this path. We're going to think differently. We're going to act differently. So we have to understand that we can't rush into anything. We have to experience it. And, if you want to have that instant gratification, you will fail yourself miserably with that. You will miss out on so much. You see, along with these different changes that you go through, with the different challenges and so forth, you're also gathering the strength that you need. You know, whenever when we want strength, we usually have these situations that come to us that require us to dig out the strength from within us. So, you know, you want to be able to work and gather up enough strength in order to prevail through all of the different future challenges that you go through. And this is not something that can be orally done. This is not something that can be read out of a book. No, you see, things that happen on a spiritual journey, it must be experienced in order to gain knowledge from it. So if you are just reading a book and you are just, you know, you're kind of mindlessly going through it, you're going to fail yourself miserably by not truly experiencing that path. Here in the 3D, the energy is slowed down enough, so we have to work through things because that is the whole process of becoming. And what are we becoming? Well, that still remains to be seen, right? One needs to fully understand that in this part of becoming, that patience is going to be greatly needed. Some of our lessons, you know, some of those lessons that we receive are not really ones that we want to face all the time. You know, we have to learn how to change those challenging lessons into blessings and see how it does enrich our lives. And again, you know, this is not something that you want to happen overnight either. You do not want to face all of that, because you'll have to do inner work as well. It requires going within and working like with the shadow and things like that. Now, I want to say something that I want to make clear. I'm not claiming that my way is the only way. I'm not claiming to be this great guru that's going to lead you to absolute bliss. That's not what I'm claiming in no shape or form. I am offering a perspective from a traditionally trained priest or priestess on her long path in spirituality. So, and I say spirituality because I've went through several different spiritual paths. I've learned, I got out there, I experienced it, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to experience those and learn about these traditions and these different religious paths and different spiritual paths as well. So, and, you know, even in this book, she doesn't claim that hers is the right word, is the only word. It's not. You know, the only thing that people can do is to teach you from their experience. And I think that is a huge gift one can offer you, is, you know, to learn, you know, to learn from my experiences and make it better for you in your future. So, you know, one of the things that we do, and you know, this path, a lot of people don't realize, is full of academia. It is full of gathering knowledge, because in order to understand where you are in today's world, you have to understand the past and what, you know, how did you get here? How did this happen? And especially nowadays, it seems like a lot of information is getting really cluttered and confused. And I think that, you know, this is a part of profaning the mysteries and profaning those traditions. So we'll talk about that in a later time. We'll get some more into that. But, gaining wisdom and sharing knowledge, that is something that I enjoy doing. That is something that she enjoyed doing. And that is why she shared this book. And that's all any of us can do, is to gain the wisdom and share the wisdom. And, and it's not to everybody, because when you give people information that they don't understand and they don't know how to use, um, they don't understand anything about it, you're wasting your time. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying it to be real. A lot of the times when you tell people things that they're not ready to hear, they won't hear them. Matter of fact, they'll ignore you and probably go a different way because they don't understand it. People don't understand things, they tend to fear things, and then of course, that just starts the destruction, the big snowball of destruction traveling downhill. So the Greek goddess, the one of the things that I want to really go into is that the great goddess does call out to a lot of children. She will call her children, but there's only a few that will actually heed the call and to become a priestess, to become a priest into the mysteries. So just because everyone is called, there's not many people that hear her and actually seek to find her. And I will say that it wasn't easy for me because I have heard it, I can tell you just about all of you that's listening to this that, I was always different as a child. I always saw things differently. I was raised in the church, but I didn't see things like that so much. I felt that there was so many things that was missing. There was just like this, it was like working with a dot to dot puzzle, and you had all of these dots and you could see them working together over here and you could see them working together over here, but there was this whole big mesh in the middle that nothing made sense to me. So I was from a small town, and of course it took me a little bit to there wasn't a lot of information. There wasn't a lot of information for me to get. And it wasn't until that I was able to leave that small town, I was able to learn. And it was when I read the book, The Celestine Prophecy, that really made me see that there's other people like me, so anyway, I will continue on. I just want to say that learning and growth is never easy. There's always that process, that struggle that we have to go through. So it's never easy. And learning how to deprogram and reprogram ourselves, that's not an easy feat to do. It does take time, and change can be very scary. But because we as human beings, we love our comfort zones and we don't want to get out of those. If we're happy and healthy right here, so we're all good. Well, that doesn't really that's not how this earth works. It's all about evolution and change. It's all about changing, growing, expanding, that sort of thing. So now one thing that I have been told over and over, as well as my high priestess, Rain Dove, is to know your history. Okay, that's simply said, but what does it mean? What does it mean to know your history? To know your history means to know the beginning. And students, when you have a seeker, a student, someone coming to you and they're wanting information, they may not understand what knowing your history means. Knowing your history means to begin your studies by getting to know the history of who you really are. So also, if you're going to study that path, get to know the history of that religion or that spiritual path. Know where it comes from. Know everything about it. The first thing that she talks about in her books is, know your history. Because if you do not, we should just never follow something blindly. Just because And me saying what I'm saying, like I said, I am not the guru. I'm not saying I know everything. Do not follow me blindly. You should never do that. You should always do your own research, and you should also always gather, information for yourself. Don't take somebody's word on it. You do that history yourself. You do that research yourself. Not knowing what we are doing, or not even having a hint at what you're doing, can be very embarrassing for you when you get out in public and start talking. You have to dig, you have to research. And I'm not saying just put it in Google and get the first thing that pops up. Look into books, look into libraries. A lot of stuff online is actually, I feel very happy that I was able to get online when it was first coming available, because I was able to get a lot of really good information. I met a lot of wonderful people when the Yahoo groups came about and so forth. So I met a lot of wonderful people through that who shared me some wonderful information that you will not be able to find nowadays. And a lot of that information is just kind of run down, or I should say watered down. So, I was lucky at that. But, you have to dig and research and find out everything that you can about the path, the good and the bad, and all that other stuff. And then determine if that path is for you. You must build your foundation very firm. And that is it. When you want to learn, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to learn your foundation. You are going to learn that it's not going to be, all right, we're going to go in and start doing the tricks and the treats. No, we're going to learn our foundation, because this is a serious path. This is, to us, this is serious. This is your religious path. This is, what you hold to be sacred and dear to your heart. And if you do not build that firm foundation, in order to, to be able to weather all of the storms, it will wash away. Always knowing the history of the religion or the spiritual path, that is very important, because, sometimes you'll get on that path and you'll start discovering that it's not for you. It may sound good, it may look good, and you may do some research and discover that, this is not for you. Also, you would need to walk away from it. If that's not serving, if that doesn't resonate with you, then you need to walk away from that. Excuse me. And so, you can't walk your talk if you don't agree with your path, or if you don't know it. So you just definitely are not going to be able to truly walk your talk in your path if your soul is not feeling it. And this is where we get religious hypocrisy. So that is where one is saying one thing, but then doing another. Do as I say and not as I do, kind of thing. And, we see that a lot in our world today. But when you follow a spiritual path, you're going to have to be able to explain it at some point. I'm not saying that you're probably going to have to do this in every conversation you're ever going to have. But at some point in your life, somebody's going to ask you, or you're going to be in a conversation, and it's going to require you explaining your path. And that is just something that, maybe we don't want to do it, but hey, it's something that we have to understand, that we'll have to talk with others about it. And many people like to say, well, I just won't mention it. And I beg to differ. I promise you, there's going to be a time that you will have to explain yourself. And if you do not understand the path's history, if you do not understand the whole concepts of it, you're going to look like a fool. And, you don't want to do that. Um, and walking your talk, especially when you have a religion like Wicca, and I call it a religion because it's federally recognized. And in order to have a religion, you have to have dogma, you have to have the rules and that so forth. And we'll go into that in more detail later. But that is beneficial to have. That's not necessarily a negative thing. When we look at religion, many of us can look at Christianity or look at the other Abrahamic traditions of Islam and Judaism, and we can say that, no, I don't want to be like that. And we see how negative things have come out of those. But that doesn't mean that dogma itself is negative. You can't condemn a word because of that, because of other people's actions. So, we have to maintain an intelligent approach to this and understand the differences. So, walking your talk is not an easy thing to do. But all in all, our actions will speak louder than our words. So if you just pay attention, people will tell you everything that you need to know. Now, you will also hear many people say to know thyself, but what does that mean? Knowing of the self means to know your strengths, to know your weaknesses, and all of those things that distract you and keep you from living in alignment with the higher, your higher purpose. Okay. Those things that entice you, those things that distract you and pull you away. And you will notice this too, when you begin studying a subject, right? Something that you've been wanting to do for a long time, and all of a sudden you are now able to do it. And then you're having all of these different things happening. And it's like, how can I do this? How can I keep it up? Well, this is what is tempting you. This is saying, how bad do you want this? And that's why, I see a lot of people will leave after the first year because these other things distract them. They allow all of these outside influences to come in and gear them off from their path. And maybe it's needed, maybe it's not. I don't think that anything is a coincidence, because I feel that if you are able to get veered off your path, then there's something, maybe you were not ready. Maybe there's something that needs to be seen there and addressed. But to know yourself, you need to know these different things. And this is stuff that you learn too as you are walking your path, as you are spiritually evolving. You begin to know yourself in different ways. So, and you may not, when you're just beginning on your spiritual path, that sort of thing, you're not going to know yourself. You're not going to know yourself. What you can do is, if you are finding a path that you are liking, you're resonating to, learn about it. If you find a teacher, a mentor, a priestess, a priest of the certain path, talk to them about it. Okay. And then they can usually gear you off in a way that can help you. Ask them for reading material, ask them for, I want to learn more about that. But now you have to understand that they're not going to give you all of their time, because they have students. They have students that have dedicated themselves into learning that path. So of course, they're going to be spending most of their time with their students and that, and their coven and whatnot. So as I stated earlier, and I'm mostly going to be talking about the Wicca, the craft of the wise, or the path of the wise. But you're going to be able to say this with every spiritual path. This is valuable information for anyone, especially for those that are seeking out the new spiritual journeys. So when one comes to wake up and understand that there's more to this world than what meets the eye, people have misunderstandings about it. And so researching the Wiccan path is not just the beginning. You don't just begin with Gerald Gardner, although, he is the founder of Gardnerian Wicca. and he is sometimes called the grandfather of Wicca. We have to dig back further than that. We do know that it was that Wicca can, dated back to the 40s and 50s, and it's mostly connected to Gerald Gardner. But again, we have to dig back further than that. Wicca is a part of the pagan path, so one would need to study and research paganism as well. I will say it can take many years of research and even sometimes a lifetime to search through some of this research, because there's so much information that's out there and available. I will add to always research authors as well when you are doing books, when you're deciding what books to get. Look at the author, Google them, see what their training is, see what their background is, do the research on them as well. Especially, have they had any studies in these magical and mystery studies and whatnot? Look at that. Find out all you can about them before you buy their books. When researching paganism, you must always look at the culture of the people as well. How did they live? What did they believe? And what happened before the downfall of paganism, what happened afterwards, and so forth. What was it like as a pagan during, the Roman Empire? What was it like during the Inquisition? Because that's something that a lot of people don't realize as well, is the Inquisition that happened, that swept across Europe. I mean, left some villages in Germany womanless. To look at that, there's a lot of stuff we could go and there's a lot of things that we could go going into, but we're not going to go into all of them today. Now, another part of this is research of your ancestral lineage. Many people get the DNA test done where they can see where their roots come from, see what blood is flowing in their veins, blood and bone kin, right? So, and they do this before they embark upon a certain religious path, because, here in North America, for example, a lot of us have Scottish and Irish descent. There's some Germanic and so forth. Like with my family, Scott-Irish and Native American. They got together a lot. Sometimes you can find a mixture, of many of the different peoples of their culture that came here. And, just research that as well. And we have to understand that America became a melting pot. And, marriage wasn't always defined by, if you were Scottish, Irish, Native American, African American, it wasn't always defined like that. So America became a great big melting pot in which different cultures came together and intermingled. And, and a lot of us are what, my high priestess, Rain Dev, and I said, Heinz 57, got a little bit of everything. And that's what a lot of us are nowadays. So we have to see what is prominent within us. So the best way to discover which spiritual path that you should go down is by looking at your ancestral lines. This is very important because we have to remember, energy flows to that, their blood flows to ours, blood of my blood and bone of my bone. These are our kin, and that is very important to do. But then, some people may not be able to do this for various reasons. Getting DNA can be expensive, and we have to look at that. Sometimes with our family can tell us where it came from. I know that the Mormon Library, they have information as well. I myself have reached a roadblock when it comes to my father's mother. She was Native American, so I haven't been able to. I found her parents, but I can't find anything past that. Those records were not kept because Native American, they didn't keep them on the records of them. So, you know, you have to then you have to kind of go by what you're being pulled to. And normally you're right, you know, normally you can see what is going on. Give me just a second. Normally you will be able to see what way you're being pulled to. Now, again, I'm going to reiterate, when people are starting this path, there's a lot of academics that is involved. Knowing your history is not an easy thing. It takes time. You know, you have to go gently, and you have to be careful of falling down rabbit holes, because again, that can lead you off way off in left field somewhere, and it's not even remotely where you began at. So watch out for those rabbit holes, and kind of when you're doing your research, stick to a focus. Now, of course, maybe you find something, make sure you write notes down, you know, maybe bookmark it, whatever, and come back to that later. It's going to be very important that you truly stick to your focus and what you're trying to do. You know, doing this research, one can learn, doing all this research, you know, you learn paganism, you learn what happened, you learn about the whole witch craze, you learn about all of the different things that happen in witchcraft, and you begin to wake up to this understanding and the unfoldment of it all. Rain Dove always called it the tangled web of Wicca, and there is a tangled web of Wicca because of the history. A lot of people do not agree on the history. Understand, when one is initiated into something, one cannot initiate themselves into a practice. There has to be some story behind that. There has to be a physical act. Someone, you know, you cannot give yourself something that you do not have. So we have to remember that. So I'm going to close for that. That's a lot of information. We'll come back and talk about that again at a different time. To know your path, know your history. To know your history is to know where you come from. To know your history is to know what, you know, your spiritual path, to read it, research it, dig, ask questions, good, bad, the ugly, all of that. That's all a part of the research. And as always, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. You know, I'm not saying to, oh, just do whatever you feel. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying to, you know, be conscious about this, you know, listen to yourself, be very mature about this, because this is mature. This is very important. Your spirituality, your religion, if you choose to practice religion versus, you know, being spiritual, we'll explain that again. We'll explain that later, I should say. But you should know this. You should really dig, and you should want to know more. Okay. If you have any questions, you can always ask me. You can email me, and I'll be leaving that information below. And until next time, and we'll go further into some stuff that we talked about in this series. Have a great day, everyone.